I've always been a night owl, so driving through the desert at 2 a.m. never bothered me. I live in Tucson, Arizona, and my job as a delivery driver means I'm on the road a lot, hauling packages between small towns. The desert highways are dead quiet at night. Just you, the stars, and the occasional jackrabbit darting across the road. I liked it that way. It gave me time to think. But last month, something happened on State Route 86 that I can't explain. It was a Friday, and I'd just dropped off a load in Ajo, a tiny town near the Mexican border. I was heading back to Tucson about 2 hours away, with nothing but my playlist and a half-empty energy drink. The road was empty, like always, just a straight shot through the Sonoran Desert. No streetlights, no houses, just cacti and sand stretching into the dark. Around 1:30 a.m., my headlights caught something up ahead. A figure standing on the shoulder, thumb out, like they were hitchhiking. I slowed down to get a better look. It was a woman, maybe in her 20s, wearing a faded denim jacket and jeans. She had long black hair and was just standing there, staring at the road. I don't usually pick up hitchhikers, too risky. But something about her made me pause. She didn't look threatening, and it was the middle of nowhere. I figured she might be stranded. So I pulled over about 20 feet past her and rolled down my passenger window. "Hey, you okay?" I called out. She didn't answer right away. She just started walking toward my truck, her boots crunching on the gravel. When she got closer, I saw her face, pale, almost gray, with these dark circles under her eyes. She leaned into the window and said in a flat voice, "Can you take me to Organ Pipe?" That's Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, about 30 miles west. I nodded, and she climbed in without another word. The second she shut the door, the air in the truck felt heavy, like the temperature dropped 10 degrees. She sat there, staring straight ahead, not saying anything. I tried making small talk, asking her name, what she was doing out here, but she just ignored me. Her hands were folded in her lap, and I noticed her nails were cracked and dirty, like she'd been digging in the sand. I shrugged it off and kept driving, but I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. About 10 minutes in, I glanced at her in the rearview mirror, and my heart stopped. Her reflection, it wasn't right. The mirror showed her face, but her eyes were completely black, like two voids. I blinked, thinking it was a trick of the light, but when I looked again, it was the same. I gripped the wheel tighter and focused on the road, telling myself I was just tired. Then she spoke, out of nowhere. "You shouldn't stop for people out here," she said, her voice low and raspy. I laughed nervously and said, "Yeah, probably not." But she didn't smile. She just kept staring ahead, and then she added, "They're not always people." I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't know what to say, so I just kept driving, my eyes glued to the road. A few minutes later, I saw the sign for Organ Pipe up ahead. I pulled into the entrance to the park, which was just a dirt lot at that hour, and turned to her. "Here we are," I said. But the passenger seat was empty. I froze. The door hadn't opened. I hadn't heard her move. I checked the back seat, the floor, everywhere. She was gone. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. I got out of the truck and scanned the lot with my flashlight, shouting, "Hey, where'd you go?" Nothing. Just silence and the faint whistle of the desert wind. I was about to get back in the truck when I noticed something on the passenger seat, a small pile of sand, like it had spilled out of her pockets. I brushed it off, trying to calm down, and that's when I saw it, a shadow on the ground, right outside the passenger door. It was human-shaped, but I wasn't casting it. I spun around, expecting to see her standing there, but the lot was empty. The shadow stayed, unmoving, like it was burned into the dirt. I jumped back in the truck and floored it out of there, not stopping until I hit Tucson. When I got home, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what she said. They're not always people. A few days later, I looked up Organ Pipe online and found stories about skinwalkers, Navajo shapeshifters that lure people in the desert. Some say they mimic humans to get close, then vanish. leaving only signs like sand or shadows. I haven't driven Route 86 at night since. But last week, I had to clean out my truck for a new delivery route. When I vacuumed the passenger seat, I found more sand, way more than before, mixed with what looked like tiny bone fragments. I don't know what I picked up that night, but I'm never stopping for a hitchhiker again. I'm not much of an outdoors guy, but when my buddy Ethan invited me to camp in the Nevada desert last summer, I figured it'd be a fun way to unplug. Ethan's a photographer, always chasing weird locations for his portfolio, and he'd found this spot online, an abandoned radio tower in the middle of the Black Rock Desert. He said it was hauntingly photogenic. I didn't care about the photos, but a weekend with no Wi-Fi and a cooler full of beer sounded good to me. We drove out on a Friday afternoon, my old pickup bouncing along a dirt road that barely existed. The tower was about 40 miles from the nearest town, surrounded by nothing but cracked earth and sagebrush. When we got there, the thing was creepier than I expected. A rusted metal skeleton, maybe 100 feet tall, with a small concrete shack at its base. The shack's door was padlocked, but the windows were smashed, and old cables dangled from the tower like vines. Ethan was thrilled, snapping photos before we even set up camp. We pitched our tent about 50 yards from the tower and spent the evening grilling hot dogs and messing around. As the sun set, the desert got dead quiet. No crickets, no wind, just this heavy silence. Around 10 p.m., Ethan wanted to explore the shack. I wasn't thrilled, but he convinced me, saying we'd just peek inside. We grabbed our flashlights and headed over. The shack smelled like mildew and rust. Inside there was a busted control panel, some rotting papers, and a single metal chair bolted to the floor. Ethan was poking around, taking pictures, when we heard a low hum, like static from an old TV. It was faint, coming from somewhere outside. We stepped out and realized it was coming from the tower itself. The thing hadn't had power in decades, so that didn't make sense. Ethan thought it was cool and climbed a few rungs of the tower's ladder to get a better shot. I stayed on the ground, shining my flashlight up at him. That's when the hum got louder, and I heard something else, a voice, garbled and faint, like someone whispering through a bad radio signal. I couldn't make out words, but it sounded angry. I yelled at Ethan to come down, but he was too busy with his camera. Then the tower started to vibrate. Not like an earthquake, but a steady pulse, like it was alive. My flashlight flickered and the whispering got clearer. Still no words, just this low, guttural chant. I screamed at Ethan to get down, and he finally listened, scrambling down the ladder. As soon as his feet hit the ground, the hum stopped, and the desert went silent again. We looked at each other, both freaked out, and booked it back to the tent. We tried to laugh it off, blaming the beer or the wind, but neither of us slept much. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the same hum, louder this time, and the tent was shaking slightly. I unzipped the flap and saw a faint red glow coming from the tower's top, like a beacon. Ethan was already awake, staring at it. "That's not normal," he whispered. Then we heard footsteps, slow, deliberate crunching on the dirt, circling the tent. We grabbed our knives and sat there, barely breathing as the steps got closer. The glow from the tower pulsed brighter, and the whispering started again, now in stereo, like it was coming from all directions. I peeked through the tent flap and saw shadows moving, not human, but distorted, like stretched out silhouettes with two long limbs. They weren't coming closer, just pacing around us, maybe 20 feet away. We stayed like that for hours, too scared to move. When the sun finally rose, the hum stopped, the glow faded, and the footsteps were gone. We packed up in record time and drove out of there, not even stopping to check the tower. On the way back, Ethan checked his camera. Every photo he'd taken of the tower was corrupted, black screens with faint red streaks, like the glow we'd seen. I looked up the tower later. It was built in the 1950s for military tests, abandoned after some unexplained interference shut it down. Locals avoid it, saying it's cursed, tied to old Paiute stories about spirits trapped in the desert. I don't know what we heard or saw that night, but Ethan sold his camera, and I haven't been camping since. Sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I swear I hear that hum again, faint, like it's following me. Last spring, I decided to hike the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. I'm not a hardcore hiker, but I'd been cooped up all winter and wanted to clear my head. The Superstitions are famous for their rugged trails and stories about the lost Dutchman's gold mine, so I thought it'd be a cool day trip. I picked a trail called Peralta, about an hour from Phoenix, packed some water and snacks, and headed out alone. That was my first mistake. The trail started out fine, rocky but manageable, with killer views of the desert and these weird, jagged peaks. It was early, around 7 a.m., and I didn't see anyone else, which was nice. I planned to hike a 5-mile loop and be back by noon. About an hour in, I noticed a side path branching off, marked with a small stack of rocks. It wasn't on my map, but it looked well trodden, so I figured it was a shortcut. I know, dumb move, but I wasn't thinking. The path led into a narrow canyon, where the walls blocked out the sun. It was cooler there, almost too cold, and the air felt thick, like I was breathing through a mask. I kept going, expecting to loop back to the main trail, but the path just kept winding deeper. After about 20 minutes, I realized I was lost. My phone had no service, and the canyon walls were too steep to climb. I started to panic, but told myself to stay calm and retrace my steps. That's when I heard it, a faint whistle, like someone blowing through a bottle coming from deeper in the canyon. I stopped, thinking it was another hiker, and called out, "Hello? Anyone there?" No answer, just the whistle again, louder this time. I didn't like it, but I figured I'd keep moving back toward the main trail. The whistling followed me, always at the same distance, like it was tracking me. I picked up my pace, tripping over rocks, my heart racing. The canyon got narrower, and I started seeing things carved into the walls, symbols like spirals and stick figures, scratched deep into the stone. They didn't look new, but they weren't weathered either, like someone had been maintaining them. The whistling stopped, and for a moment, I thought I was in the clear. Then I heard footsteps behind me, heavy and uneven, like someone dragging their feet. I spun around, but no one was there, just the empty canyon. I shouted, "Who's there?" And my voice echoed back, but it sounded wrong, like someone else was mimicking me. I started running, not caring about the trail anymore, just wanting out. The footsteps kept pace, always just out of sight. I could hear breathing now, ragged and close, like it was right behind my neck. I don't know how long I ran, but I finally stumbled into a wider part of the canyon where the sun broke through. The footsteps stopped, and I collapsed against a boulder, trying to catch my breath. That's when I saw it, a figure at the far end of the canyon, standing motionless. It was tall, too tall, wrapped in what looked like tattered cloth, blending into the rock. Its face was hidden, but I could feel it staring at me. I didn't wait to see what it would do. I bolted, scrambling over rocks until I found the main trail again. By some miracle, I made it back to my car, scraped up and shaking. When I checked my watch, it was 4 p.m. I'd been gone 9 hours, way longer than I thought. I drove straight home, not stopping for anything. Later, I looked up the superstitions and found stories about the Desert Watcher, a spirit tied to Apache legends. They say it guards sacred places, luring hikers off trails to trap them. Some say it's not a spirit, but something older, something that carves those symbols to mark its territory. I don't know what I saw, but I left my hiking boots in the trash. Every time I close my eyes, I hear that whistle, and I wonder if it's still out there waiting for me to come back.